Love doesn't always end with closure. Sometimes it ends with silence, sometimes with betrayal, and sometimes with a truth you were never meant to find. This is Breakup Diaries, stories about what really happens after love ends. I wasn't supposed to touch his phone, not because he ever told me not to, but because I never needed to. We didn't have that kind of relationship. No secrets, no late-night arguments, no reasons to question anything. At least, that's what I believed. Until the night his phone lit up beside me. And everything I thought I knew about my life started to feel like a lie. His name is Daniel. We'd been together for 6 years. 6 years of shared routines, quiet mornings, and the kind of comfort that makes you stop asking questions. We weren't loud or dramatic. We were steady, predictable in the best way. He was the kind of man who texted when he got to work, who remembered the smallest things about me, like how I hated cold coffee or needed silence after a long day. He made me feel safe. And I built my life around that feeling, around him. There were small things I noticed but ignored. How he started taking his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. How he would slightly turn his screen away when texting beside me. Not obvious, just different. I noticed. Of course I did. But I trusted him. When you trust someone, you create reasons to ignore warning signs. I told myself he was stressed. Work was hard. He was probably dealing with things he didn't want to bring home. It had to make sense. Because the alternative was something I wasn't ready to face. So I didn't. I chose peace. I chose comfort. I chose to believe that whatever felt off was just in my head. And for a while, that was enough. Until the night, everything got quiet. And his phone lit up beside me. I couldn't stop thinking about that phone. That single notification, glowing quietly beside me, had already rewritten everything I believed. I tried to push it away, pretended it didn't exist, pretended Daniel was still the man I'd loved for 6 years. But pretending is harder than looking, and eventually, I did the one thing I swore I'd never do. I picked it up again. It was a Thursday night, quiet, nothing unusual in the apartment. He had stepped out for a call, leaving his phone on the kitchen counter. My heart pounded before I even touched it. My hands shook slightly, but curiosity overpowered fear. And there it was. The message. A single line that cut through everything I thought I knew. Last night meant everything to me red. I froze. I didn't breathe. My mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe nothing. But the name at the top wasn't mine. It was saved with a heart, a name I didn't recognize. I put the phone down, trembling, unsure if I wanted to see more. I didn't. Not yet. When Daniel returned, I smiled, acted normal. My stomach twisted in knots, but I didn't say a word. "Is everything okay?" he asked casually. I nodded. "Yeah, just tired." He smiled back. Nothing seemed off, perfectly normal, perfectly calm. And that made it worse. Because I realized, in that moment, he could lie. He could hide things. He could live a life I didn't even know existed. And I would never have known, if not for that one message. I spent the rest of the night lying awake, replaying it over and over. Last night meant everything to me. What did it mean? Who was it for? How long had this been going on? Every memory suddenly felt different. Every late night, every small lie I had brushed off, they all started to add up. By morning, I couldn't eat, couldn't focus, couldn't breathe. I had a decision to make. Ignore it, confront it, or find the truth myself. And I knew, deep down, the truth would change everything. Because when you see a life you weren't meant to see, there's no going back. I knew I had to see more, but what I found next was worse than anything I could have imagined. After that night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the apartment seemed amplified. Every shadow felt like it was hiding secrets. Every notification made my chest tighten. I kept replaying the message in my head. Last night meant everything to me red. Who? Why? How long? I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe it was harmless, that maybe I'd imagined a pattern where there was none, but my gut, it didn't let me rest. The next morning, I watched him closely. He moved through the apartment like nothing had changed. He made coffee. He hummed softly. He smiled at me. The Daniel I'd known for years. Perfect, steady, safe. And yet, everything felt different. I noticed the little things I had dismissed before. How he guarded his phone like it held secrets. How he subtly tilted it away when messaging. How he sometimes worked late, but always seemed perfectly available elsewhere. I told myself again, it's nothing. I'm imagining it. But imagining, it didn't stop my mind from racing. By Wednesday, curiosity became obsession. I started retracing past moments. That late-night work call, that didn't make sense. The weekend he needed space. The small changes in the way he spoke, the way he laughed, the way he smiled at his phone. It was like seeing a puzzle, finally realizing a few pieces didn't fit. And then came the day. He left his phone on the counter again. I didn't touch it, not yet. Instead, I sat across from it, watching, waiting, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I remembered the message. I remembered the heart. I remembered the name I didn't recognize. And I realized I needed to know the truth. I had to see more. I had to understand. Because ignoring it wasn't an option anymore. I finally picked up the phone again, and what I found next made me question everything I thought I knew about Daniel and about myself. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The message, the heart, the name I didn't recognize. I tried to pretend it wasn't real, tried to convince myself that Daniel was just stressed or that it meant nothing. But the truth kept crawling back into my mind. And then the opportunity came. It was a Friday night. He had left his phone on the counter while taking a call outside. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking. Every instinct screamed not to touch it, but I couldn't stop myself, not anymore. I picked it up. I unlocked it. The screen lit up, and suddenly everything I'd feared was right in front of me. Messages, photos, dates, plans, conversations that weren't meant for me, weeks, maybe months of hidden life. I stared at the first message. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. My stomach twisted, my chest tightened, My hands trembled. I scrolled further. There were photos, selfies, smiles, intimate moments. Things Daniel had shared with her, things he'd never shared with me. It wasn't a single mistake. It wasn't one night. It was a full relationship, hidden right under my nose. The betrayal hit me harder than I could have imagined. I put the phone down for a moment, trying to breathe, trying to think, trying not to scream. And then I realized he wasn't just lying. He was living a life I didn't know existed, a life parallel to mine. I had a choice: confront him now, let him explain, or watch, collect the evidence, and understand the full truth before deciding what to do. I chose the truth. For the rest of the night, I sat there quietly, scrolling through every message, every photo, every plan. My heart ached with every new discovery. Each piece of evidence made the picture clearer and darker. By the time he returned, I had seen enough to know this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a pattern. It was a choice he had made, repeatedly, every day. And I realized something terrifying. I couldn't unsee it. This wasn't just about one mistake. This wasn't something that would go away. This was his life. And now it was mine too. I had the proof. I knew the truth. But what I decided to do next would change everything for both of us. I couldn't sleep that night. The phone sat beside me on the counter like a silent witness. Every message, every photo, every plan I had just seen replayed in my mind over and over. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a life, a secret life, one I had never been allowed to see. I kept scrolling, holding my breath. Photos of them together, smiles, intimate touches, laughs I'd never heard, words meant only for her, words he had never said to me. Then I saw a message from him. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. That was it, the final confirmation. He had been living a double life, a parallel reality that I had no part of, and I had trusted him completely. My chest tightened, my stomach sank, my head spun. How could someone do this for so long without being caught? How could he look me in the eyes every day and lie so easily? How could he love me and someone else at the same time? I felt every emotion at once: anger, heartbreak, disbelief, shame. I sat there for hours, piecing together every moment that now seemed like a lie, every late night at work, every missed call, every small thing I had ignored because I loved him. It all added up. And then it hit me. He wasn't going to stop. Not until he had everything he wanted. Not until he had both lives. I realized I was living alongside a man I didn't really know. A man who had been hiding his choices, his emotions, his truth. My hands shook. My eyes burned with tears I couldn't let fall yet. I knew one thing: confronting him right now would change nothing. I needed a plan. I needed clarity. I needed control. Because the moment I had discovered this life he had hidden, everything shifted. I wasn't just the woman who had found out. I was the woman who would decide what came next. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, heart racing. The room was silent except for my own breathing. And I understood something clearly. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was survival. The choice wasn't just about leaving or staying. It was about reclaiming my life from a man who had stolen it without me even knowing. I knew what I had to do next, and the move I made would shock him, and change everything between us forever. By the next morning, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. And I certainly wasn't going to watch someone who had been living a lie continue to control my life. I packed my things quietly. One bag, minimal, just what I needed. Every item I touched felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been buried under years of trust and love and betrayal. The apartment was still. Daniel was at work, oblivious to the storm that had been building silently beside him for days. He had no idea that the woman he thought he knew was about to disappear from his carefully constructed life. I left everything else behind. Memories, photos, gifts, all of it. I didn't destroy